YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back, and Ryan Tannehill just got traded a little bit ago to the Tennessee Titans. I was actually recording a fresh, updated 2-round NFL mock draft during that, so it's pretty interesting. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. But I'm going to break down this trade and then grade both the teams here. We did this for Odell Beckham and D Ford trades. Plenty of free agency coverage, plenty of NFL draft coverage here. Check out our Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. Links in the description for all those. But let's get on to the trade. Trade details. Titans get Ryan Tannehill and a 6th-round pick from this year, 2019 draft. The Dolphins get a 7th-round pick from this year and a 2020 4th-round pick. So that's the best thing that the Dolphins got right there. It's a 4th-round pick, but it's not till next year. So Tannehill was owed a lot of money these next 2 years, had a pretty big contract. They restructured it. That was what was key here. So these two teams must have been talking for a while because there's a lot that needs to get done. Tannehill needs to be involved, obviously for this to go down too. So this must have been going on for a while. It was pretty quiet. 1 year, $7 million. The Titans have to pay Ryan Tannehill, and it can be $12 million max. That's the max it can reach. Playing time is involved. So if he starts, then he probably will most likely make that $12 million, but most likely Mariota is going to start, as that's what they should do. So maybe closer to that $7 million. But the Dolphins agreed to pay $5 million of it, so the Titans can pay anywhere from 2 to 7 because of that max. It starts off looking like they got to pay 2. It could reach that $7 million if the contract reaches $12 million max. So pretty good for the Titans there. They don't have to pay much at all, and they get a quarterback here. But the Dolphins save $33 million because he was going to be owed the next 2 years. $37 million. They pay $5 million, so they're going to save $33 million. That's a lot of money. A lot of money, and they get a 4th-round pick out of it, and they swap 6-7 this year. So, yeah, this was kind of a surprising move. Was not expecting this one, really. I thought most likely he would get cut, really. But if he was going to get traded, yeah, I had the Titans in mind because they do need a starting caliber backup because Mariota does seem to get hurt over the last few years quite a bit. So, that kind of cost them the playoffs, too. They had to play Gabbert a lot, and Tannehill's definitely an upgrade from Gabbert. So, very interesting how the contract works here. Again, these teams must have been talking for a while, so pretty interesting. But like I said, the Dolphins, I thought they were going to end up cutting him. They get a 4th-round pick, and they don't really lose a pick there. They just swap 6 and 7, basically. And they save a bunch of money, but they do have to pay 5, but I think they're okay with that. So let's get on to some grades here. Dolphins, start with them, A+. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like I said, they were going to cut him, I thought, or either way. If they couldn't trade him, they were going to cut him. If this trade didn't go down, most likely, or maybe they would have found a deal that wasn't as good. But I don't know who else would have traded for him. The Redskins already traded for Keenum instead, so I'm sure they had phone calls about this, those two teams. So they were going to cut him anyways. They get a 4th-round pick out of it, and they save a ton of money. They actually rather this. They actually rather have him traded and restructured. That's basically the A+ situation. That's what happened here. So they saved a ton of money. So the cap space is free. There's still some good free agents out there. They can go out and do that. It's an A+ for the Dolphins. Why not? Not a guy they're going to have around anyways. So they definitely win this deal, but I do like it for the Titans. I gave him an A. Only reason it's an A+ because maybe he would have got cut and maybe you would be able to get him still, but that's just a small part of it because you got to make sure you get him because he fits the offense. And like I said, they need a starting caliber quarterback as their backup because, that's what they needed over the last few years and they didn't have it. Castle had to play games at one point. Last year, Gabbert had to play games. Mariota's good, but he just can't stay healthy, and nerve damage last year, that's usually could affect your career. So maybe Tannehill's the guy, but 1-year contract, so you kind of got to figure it out after this next year. But you're pretty safe. You got Mariota, who's a little better quarterback than Tannehill, maybe more than a little, but you also have Tannehill there. You got both of the guys there you can start. Traded a 4th-round pick, but it is next year. I'm glad it wasn't this year because they made very little picks last year, but they got some really good players because a lot of trading up. So they needed a haul this year. So and they didn't have a 6, so they gained that, and they don't give up a 4th this year. They do next year. So I really like it for both teams. You know, the Dolphins win, obviously, because it's basically like they saved a bunch of money and got a 4th-round pick next year for free. It's almost what it's like. The Titans, yeah, like I said, I like the deal for them. At first, when I first saw it in my head, what I was thinking was the Titans just traded a future 4th for a guy with a ridiculous contract to be a backup, or are they really going to start him? So I was very, very confused. I was thinking this was very bad for the Titans. But just the restructure, and the Dolphins pay $5 million of it, all that just turns it into an A just like that, because you got a very quality backup, could be a starter, and the Dolphins get to pay part of it, and the restructure is just a big part. I'm thinking in my head they're paying $18, $19 million over the next 2 years each year for a guy that's going to be the backup, or does that mean he's going to start? I was very confused, but they fixed it. Again, this had to be. They had to be talking about this over the last several days, I would think. I don't know if you can just whip this up just like that, but I would imagine that the Dolphins had talks with the Redskins before the Keenum trade, possibly other teams. So we'll see. The Dolphins, in my latest mock draft, I had them taking a quarterback. So check that out if you haven't seen it yet. They could be in the market for Josh Rosen if he's available. Blake Bortles, but you can't have the plan of Blake Bortles being your starter. So, I would love Blake Bortles on any team as a backup. I think it's a solid backup, but you can't really plan on him being a starter. So I'd look for, if it wasn't a draft pick or before then, I would look for Bortles as your backup, potentially starter, but not ideal, or a Josh Rosen trade. I'd rather trade for Josh Rosen than trade up in the draft for one of these quarterbacks, or take a, I might rather have, and Murray's going first. I might rather have Locke or Haskins than Rosen, but if you have to trade up and give up a bunch of stuff, which I think is, as we sit, likely for the Dolphins, things can change. Like I said, Rosen could come into play, but yeah, I don't know if I would trade up. I think I'd rather get Rosen. I don't know. There was a rumor that the price would be 3rd round. I think it's definitely more than that. We'll see, though. We will see if that happens. A lot of madness going on and more to come. We got plenty of NFL draft and free agency content here on the channel, though. Our subscriber goal is at 20K, so please help us out by clicking that button, clicking the like button, notification button. Will be much appreciated as well. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. Goodbye.